her, and Robin Sharon Matthews, whose daughter Lee was murdered in 2004 by Donovan Moodley. So for a victim, their journey starts when the offense is committed. Often they are law-abiding citizens with no knowledge of the law. Throughout the trial, they are supported, they are present in the hearings, and the state takes their hand. They are guided and assisted through the sentencing procedures, and they feel that somebody is fighting for them. For many, a guilty conviction and a life sentence imposed means that they can now breathe a sigh of relief. They can feel that justice has been done, and they can find some form of closure. This is not the case when it is, of course, a life sentence that has been imposed. So today, I will mainly concentrate on life sentence. So when they find out that the offender is eligible to be considered for parole, they feel that the whole world has come crashing down. They tell me that to navigate the parole process has been compared to a maze. It's a lonely journey where obtaining documents and information is very difficult and challenging, and they feel morally obliged to be there as the voice of their loved one. So I'm using the acronym PAROLE to explain to you the victim's perspectives. The P, parole is not a right. Consideration for parole is a right. Victims accept that parole forms part of our legal system, and that offenders who are considered for placement after parole, after serving the minimum period of their sentence, must be paroled if they meet the criteria for release. It is the high risk of recidivism and the generally high incidences of crime which is causing an outcry in the community for a return of the death penalty. Communities' fears may be allayed by dealing with a life sentence as a sentence for life in the first instance, and to be reduced only in exceptional circumstances. Now, as you all know, the death penalty was abolished in 1995 in the matter of S versus Makongana. In the comments of the learned judges, their comments are indicative that the view is that a lifelong sentence as a competent alternative sentence of the death penalty. The learned Judge Ackerman stated, with the abolition of the death penalty, society needs the firm assurance that the unreformed recidivist murderer or rapist will not be released from prison, however long the sentence served by the prisoner may have been, if there is a reasonable possibility that the prisoner will repeat the crime. Society needs to be assured that in such cases, the state will see to it that such a recidivist will remain in prison permanently. The learned Judge Kendridge, in the same judgment, stated, the choice, as Shackleton P. has pointed out, is not between death penalty on the one hand and the condemnation of the Murderers Act on the other. The choice is between the death penalty and a long term of imprisonment, which might, in appropriate cases, include life imprisonment in the fullest sense of the term. So, in the matter of Alison Botha, I was told off the record that the prevailing view was that the offenders were eligible for consideration on parole. They have served quite a number of years in jail. They have attended parole hearings, and as such, there was no other choice but to release them. This is, of course, an incorrect assumption. The conclusive consideration for release on parole must be determined by the risk the offender poses to society. That must be identified by experts and the extent to which the offender has become rehabilitated. Judging a person's rehabilitation can be difficult, but various factors can be indicative thereof. The A in parole, I have said access to the profile of the offender. This is a huge flaw in our system. There's a lack of transparency. During a trial, the judicial process, from laying the charge to conviction, it's a transparent process which is open to the public and to the media. It strengthens our democracy. The process is subject to outside scrutiny, bringing a set of checks and balances and accountability. When, however, it comes to the parole hearing, the process is shrouded in secrecy and is termed confidential. While one can appreciate such an approach to protect prisoners on their rehabilitation journey from unnecessary scrutiny from third parties, this should not also relate to the victims. Victims have a right to request from the Department of Correctional Services copies of the programs the offender has undergone to improve his behavior whilst incarcerated. However, the victim makes the request and the offender must give written consent. This right to privacy should not be an absolute right, because effectively it means that a victim goes to a parole board hearing basically blind. They don't have the necessary access to the offender's information, and for argument's sake, they could have been happy with the reports if it had been given to them and choose not to go if the offender proves to be rehabilitated. Psychologists have a very critical role to play in the risk assessment of an offender. This particularly came to light about 2 years ago when one of the psychologists was reported to the Health Practitioners Council of South Africa and was in fact found guilty because her report fell short of the standard required assessment and recommendations concerning the risk of recidivism. Now you will ask the question, why did we have access to those reports? The answer is because the offender, Donovan Moodley, was not happy with the recommendation of the parole board not to recommend him for parole, and he launched a review application in the High Court, and part of the documents that he used included the psychologist's report. Without that, we would have had no access to that report. What is concerning is that these reports, which are submitted to the CMC, are not subject to independent verification, the reports are not contested, and there's no factual verification of the facts as related to the psychologist by the offender. So what we are saying is all relevant information must be considered during the parole decision-making process, including inputs from the victim who may have knowledge of the offender's engagement with the criminal justice system, which does not reflect in their profile. In a recent parole hearing, it came to our attention that parole board was not aware that the offender had changed his version, that there was various appeals, that there was an attempted escape, and that he had taped a parole board chairperson, and there has been no consequences. The R for parole, I say remorse, rehabilitation, and recidivism. The aim of parole is to acknowledge compliance with the sentence plan, to promote the rehabilitation of offenders and minimize the risk of reoffending, and to provide long-term protection of the community, which is obviously most important. Now, victims concede that if an offender is remorseful, has been rehabilitated, and no longer pose a risk to society, of course, then they must be placed on parole. However, statistics show that South Africa is one of the highest and most unsustainable rates of recidivism in the world. One remembers 9-year-old Tasnay van Wyk, who was raped and brutally murdered by a parolee, who was a serial child molester, but was nevertheless released on parole. The O in parole, offenders. If offenders of sexual crimes are released on parole, the communities into which they are released must be notified. One of the previous speakers addressed that aspect, so due to time constraints, I will not go into that any further. It is, however, well established and known that pedophiles continue to be a threat to society, and therefore there must be proper checks and balances and parolees must be monitored after release. I move on to the L in parole, which stands for legislation. Now, also I will go through that a bit quicker due to time constraints, but we all know the Constitution guarantees every person's right to equality before the law. Victims feel that their constitutional rights are often disregarded in favor of the offender because they are although they are law-abiding citizens, their rights are often disregarded with the offender's rights trumping theirs. Now, we are familiar with legislation, Section 299A of the Criminal Procedure Act, and I found this very interesting when I first started with my research. It states that when a court sentences a person for imprisonment for certain offenses, it shall inform the complainants, in the case of murders, the immediate family of the deceased, that they have the right to make representations when a placement of an offender on parole is considered. We are in the presence of learned judges. I do not know if this is done, but from the clients that I represent, none of them was aware of this. So if a victim wants to participate, it goes further. Then that victim has a duty to register in writing with the Commissioner of Correctional Services, providing certain information. Now, I'm going to use the example of Ina Bonnet. She is the lady that was raped and brutally brutalized, sexually assaulted, and her son was murdered. And the media dubbed her husband at the time the Modimolle monster. So Ina was not aware of this. This only came to her knowledge last year in January at a chance meeting which I had with Ina. So the commissioner will then inform the parole board, and the parole board must then inform the victim in writing at the appropriate time. Further legislation requires 30 days' notice to be given to the victim. Now, I referred back again to Bob Hewitt, the Bob Hewitt matter. So Olivia Yasril and another client for whom I acted, they had registered with the Department of Correctional Services, and I received the mandate to make inquiries of when the parole board would have its sitting. I contacted, with great difficulty, the North End prison, and we could not get answers. We couldn't get them to answer the telephone because they only had one telephone line, and their emails were not working. Obviously, that's an unacceptable situation. So when I eventually reached somebody at Correctional Services, I was told that Bob Hewitt still had to be considered for placement on parole. In the meantime, one of the other victims, the other victim that I was representing, received an email from the Department of Correctional Service to state that Hewitt had been placed on parole, much to the shock of myself and Olivia. So, the matter was successfully reviewed by the Correctional Supervision, Parole and Review Board, but the trauma that Olivia experienced and the trauma of the other victim, because they were not considered, they were not notified, they did not give their inputs. I take you also to the case of Alison Botha, and also the matter of Haramse. He was the samurai sword, known as the samurai sword killer, who killed the boy Jacques Pretorius at school. And in both of those instances, there seems to be a misconception that a victim can only be invited once to a parole board hearing. That is not true. The policies clearly state that the victim must be notified of when a further hearing will take place. It's important for victims to be part of the process which evolves over time and which, in any event, is mandated by legislation. Other relevant legislation, there's directives, there's the Victims' Charter. Now, the Service Charter for Victims of Crime in South Africa states it is the responsibility of the state to promote the equal enjoyment of all rights and freedoms that are guaranteed in the Constitution. We have a DCS policy, Procedures for Placement and Release of Offenders. It's a 248-page document. There's guidelines for victims' complainant involvement in parole boards. But ultimately, the duty rests on Department of Correctional Services, for instance, to print pamphlets, according to what I've read. In terms of the guidelines, the parole board must send an information brochure if they notice that a victim failed to register. The only pamphlet I've ever seen was at an actual parole board meeting or hearing. In terms of the guidelines further, Department of Correctional Services is obliged, after consulting with the Commissioner, to initiate contact if a victim did not register and is a notorious offender. This simply does not happen. So simply following the procedures and the policies and avoiding the arbitrary application of procedures and policies will minimize the trauma that victims have. I submit that the process is not victim-centric. It does not always consider the trauma, the secondary trauma for victims, especially when they are excluded from participating and especially if they have registered to participate. And of course, victims have no idea what to expect. There are exceptions to the rule, but there's a lack of information, a lack of feedback. Communication with DCS is often very difficult. Documentation and information is scarce and sometimes very, very confusing. And finding the correct person, contact person for a specific victim as relating to a specific offender is often difficult. Again, I use the example of Ina Bonet. I've inquired for 18 months to try and establish where 3 of the offenders are, because she wants to register, to date without success. So there's no guidance. Victims feel lost and overwhelmed by the process. They often remind me that they did not choose to be in this position, whereas the offenders did. They feel like the stepchildren in the process. And then they have to go and face an offender in a confined space, and sometimes it's the murderer of their son or daughter. So the policy states quite clearly that victims' inputs are not for window dressing, and I quote, it says are not for window dressing. But victims are often left to feel that way. I refer again to the Bob Hewitt matter. When the parole hearing was then reconvened and we were able to attend, it was with shock that we realized, after we were told what the decision was, that the actual decision was pre-typed. At that point in time, Olivia just felt, and the other victim, that they were so emotionally drained and exhausted, they didn't want to take it any further. So relevant and important information, in my experience, must be provided to victims at the parole hearing. And this information and any victim information that we present to a parole board are often not taken into consideration. At a recent parole hearing, we made representations which was contradicting the offender's version, and we were able to prove it with factual evidence. Nevertheless, it was just simply ignored. So important that victims, and this is again in the policy, victims must be informed of a decision. Alison Botha found out when receiving an email that they were placed on parole, one of the offenders, and for the other offender, she was contacted by a member of the media. There is an obligation, if the victim was not present but has submitted a representation, that they be informed in writing of the decision, and on request, the reasons for the decision. In all cases where the offender is approved, the conditions as well as the name and contact number of relevant community corrections office. It just simply does not happen. The victim is entitled to a copy of the decision of the parole board and its motivation within 2 weeks after such request. However, in my experience, it just simply doesn't happen. And we are told to approach the court, which causes unnecessary expenses to the state. The next problem that victims have is the issue of costs. All victims cannot afford to make representations at a parole board sitting or participate in a victim-offender dialogue. Again, in the case of Olivia Yasriel, she was in Pretoria, Bob Hewitt in Port Elizabeth, and she had to make a choice whether to attend the victim-offender dialogue or whether to attend the parole hearing. She chose the parole hearing. Some victims do have the resources, others don't, but it's unfair to those that don't have the resources to not be able to participate. We have technology, and this should be used, but it can only be used if the victims know, and they don't know their rights. So there's no budget for the care and treatment of victims, which I know is a contentious issue, but as my new friend Alistair, who will speak to you later, said to me this morning, he formally acknowledges that the offenders are taken through the process, but victims not. So they get the opportunity, the offenders, to heal and to rehabilitate, but the victims remain in that cocoon of trauma. So one of the matters that I must commend Department of Correctional Services was when Barry Steenkamp met with Oscar Pistorius in a victim-offender dialogue. The department went out of their way to transport Oscar Pistorius to Kleberga to make sure that the victim-offender dialogue could take place. But prior to that, they got psychologists involved as well as a social worker who prepared Barry for that meeting. And I think that should be the rule, not the exception. It must, high-profile matters should not get, okay, 2 minutes. All right, the parole, the E stands for education. I think there needs to be education of victims, parole boards. There's 53 parole boards, there's no uniformity. And in closing, in closing, as the Honourable Minister Groenewald said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but what we have, we should at the very least do what the directives and the law says. And that concludes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Quinn. Thank you. Very important. You are re-emphasizing that victims need to be part of the process. Without any further ado, Ms. Khwadi, are you ready? Can I please just ask Ms. Khwadi to come to the fore? She is going to be speaking on the same subject, the voice of the victims and proposals on the parole system. Can we welcome her with a round of applause?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Masilailo Anastasia Khwadi. I'm a victim from my father's doings. Let me quickly explain what really happened. In 2021, my father brutally murdered my mother in front of us as his kids. So the DCS and the HCLS company played a very huge role in our lives because they took us and then they gave me the program of the cell phone repair. And with that program, I had to learn to heal because I was doing it at Heidelberg Prison. So, in that saying, I would like to thank Mr. Azwima Sangani and the Heidelberg team for the healing process because they offered me the social worker who helped me through with the counseling. And ever since then, I've been better because ever since what happened, my father didn't show any remorse actually. He used to call me and threaten me because what happened is that he murdered my mother because he wanted the money and my mother's cars and the stand in Tembisa because my mother wanted the divorce. So for him to gain, he decided to murder my mother. So because now, as the older child, I had to take over from my mother. So I am now owning everything my mother used to own. So ever since my father got arrested, he used to call me almost every day, even at night, and threaten me that when he come out, he will kill me. So on the parole system issue, I would like to say, why can't just they stay there until they finish their sentences? Not for them to come out as on a parole. They should stay in prison until they serve their full sentences. And then the DCS helped me again on the business because they helped me on the cell phone repair lessons. And then ever since then, I had to open my business because now I don't have any background. So I had to be an elder person to my siblings. And then open the cell phone repair I learned at the Heidelberg DCS. So now I'm doing I'm busy with the cell phone repair business I learned at prison. So as a victim, I had to socialize with the parolees for me to heal faster. So since then, I opened the business with the parolees, and it helped me heal. And the DCS helped me with they made me go through the prison cell to see how the evicted people live in prison. So ever since then, I got closure, I can say that. So it helped me a lot. And the effect of the crime, actually, yeah, it really broke us, actually, as the kids of the deceased. It played a role that I had to grow in my younger age, because what happened when I was still younger. I was 20 years by then. So I had to be a parent to my siblings. And then I had to figure out life, actually, for me to see where life goes now that we don't have both parents, because my father is in jail and my mother is no more. So I had to be a bigger person. I had to figure out life. So what happened really broke us as the kids. But all thanks to the DCS, the Heidelberg team, they really helped on the healing process, because we were offered the social workers until we were fully healed. And the thing of going to prison almost every day, just to see how the prisoners live, to see how their freedom is taken from their hands, made me recover faster. So in conclusion, I would like to say, can the parole system not allow the prisoners to come out before their sentence is over? Because when I went to prison, I think it was 2023, my father called the family of the deceased saying he wanted to apologize. But then when we got there, he didn't want to talk to the siblings of my mother. He only wanted to see his kids, meaning he doesn't care about how the deceased family feel. He only wanted to talk to his kids. And for him to talk to his kids, he wanted to bribe us to forgive him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, Ms. Khwadi, for sharing your personal story. Yeah, very hard to swallow. Thank you, ma'am, for being brave and strong and being able to stand here to share your personal story. Colleagues, I am going to then move and ask for more lived experiences, but this time around we are going to be moving to the parolees. Colleagues, I'm going to give you, you are going to be sharing 30 minutes between the three of you. So I'm going to start with Ms. C.M. Jackson. If you please can come to the podium and also share your story. And then after Ms. C.M. Jackson, I will ask former parolees. We have Mr. S. Kutia and Mr. A. Fortain to also please come to the fore. If you can please make your way to the front, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Program Director. Good afternoon, our ministers, our deputy ministers, all protocol observed. Because I have only 10 minutes, I was going to say, good afternoon, say, good afternoon, say, because I was taught in prison about discipline and respect. Standing before you here is Clementine Jackson, well known as Omandisa Jackson. I made a name for myself after prison. I'm not proud to be an ex-convict, but I am proud of what I was taught there and what I came out with. These people wearing brown uniform, they put something in my mind. In prison, I was never a woman who was just yet and lay. Anything that was brought before me, I was grabbing it and make use of it. I did horticulture. I know how to grow something. I know from a scent. Anyway, I don't have time. I was gonna tell you. I am also a landscaper. That's true, that's horticulture. This is how I learn. I did parental care. I was diagnosed with cancer whilst I was in prison. And I survived cancer whilst I was in prison. After my survival of cancer, I had to do parental care. I was a caregiver. What was done for me, and then I had to go to the hospital and caregiver those who are still sick. And I'm standing right here. I'm saying if I was not in that prison, I wouldn't have stand the pain of cancer. Because the way people wearing brown uniform and said, Clementine, wake up, we are going to the hospital. 30 days I was in chain going to the hospital, treatment of cancer, because brown uniform was behind me. If I had the freedom outside, I was supposed to be dead. I was told I'm going to die after 5 years, which was going to be 2024, but I was outside. Thank you, Lord. And I would like to thank this DCS. I did a book club. I was joined book club, Funda Mzansi. I was a singer in prison. I did my drama. I did a lot of things. There are a lot of skills that can equip a person when you come outside. That actually, they put them before you. They said, here are they. Please learn, don't sleep. So that when you go outside, I'll be with my brown uniform in prison and will be outside. You won't know what to do. I will be not there as your mother. I came out of prison. I was homeless. I had nowhere to go to. Because my brother who signed for me, one day, the next day he said to me, you have something between your legs that can make something for yourself. I don't want that. I'm a victim of GBV. And I told myself, when I come out of prison, I don't want to see a man. And I vowed, what can I do? Then came those skills that I learned from prison. I said, no. They taught me to be bold and stand before the people. I can use the power in my mouth. The power in my tongue. This is what I did. I used it. I did a crime awareness campaigns. I was employed at the radio station as a presenter. And I have my show, a community show, down by Mandisa Jackson. They call me Mandisa Jackson outside. You know, the skill from prison. I do podcast. I do GBV awareness with that. Because I do not want anybody to live the life that I lived in my past. And I want to tell people that prison is not a place where you can play bananas or dice. Die plek meneer is nie lekker nie, meneer Groenewald, ek sê presies vir jou. Meneer die plek is nie plek. I don't even wish prison for my worst enemy. I went to prison, I was somebody. I did not even care about anybody else. But I came back, I knew who the person is. I knew how to bow down. I knew how to beg. I knew how to respect a person. I knew how to feel empathy for somebody else. That is why today I'm a life coach. I just started the initiative of Help a Girl Child. Because our children need to be grown whilst they're still young. Then we alleviate the GBV. Our boys also, I do talks to boys. I go to schools, I do school talks with the children. Because the moment we groom our children whilst they are young, do you think that our children will become criminals? Because I stand before them and I say, prison, Egvasda. Don't even try. So I sing this crime awareness at the radio station. I sing this crime awareness in our communities at churches. I sing this crime awareness in our schools. I do GBV. Tell me, if I wasn't in prison and I slept, do you think that I'll be standing before you as a proud member of a community? I'm a community developer. No, but I'm not saying go and commit crime. I was working at Home Affairs. I never know that from personal number I'll be having a prison number. It happened to me. I'm warning those who are still holding the personal number, it must not be converted to be a prison number just like myself. I am not proud to be an ex-convict, but I know that this is something that I am carrying with me. People call me Umamas Gebengu. From Department of Home Affairs, I was a drug mule. From Department of Home Affairs, I married a man who made me do wrong things. That is why I told myself I don't need a man anymore. I'm not a lesbian man. I'm fine by myself. I'm a man myself. I'm a woman myself. I love myself. This is what I told women, that you know what? If you look at yourself in the mirror, talk to that mirror and say, I love you. Because we expect to be loved by other people and ended up doing things that we don't want to. There are people who load you to do something that you're not even intending to. I never thought that I would package my body with drugs and traffic drugs, but I did it. In the name of love. So that is why I said I hated myself. Why did I do that? So I gave myself, since I came out from prison 2020, I said, Mandisa, love yourself. I keep myself very beautiful. And I just like men, just look at me. And if you look at me, I say, hi, but you are not going to find me. I love myself. I'm being honest with you, from 2020, I came out from prison as a second-time vision, and I did not want anybody to touch me. I love myself. I love my children. I made mistakes in my life, and I did not even think of my children. I'm a mother of 5. When I was committing crime, I did not take care of my kids. So this thing, like it hit me, it drove me. Whilst I was in prison, I said, my children. When I was doing my own introspection, and I asked myself, who are you? And I told myself, I am Clementine. I came out of that prison, I was struggling, and I had a mother in Brown. I had a mother in Brown from Community Corrections. That is the woman that I used to pour all my miseries to. She's my parole officer. Mama, this is what is happening. The time she saw me on Anchor News, she called me the next day and she charged me and said, Clementine, what are you doing on social media? And she charged me. And I said, Mama, I'm sorry. She gave me a final written warning. Mrs. Molson from Johannesburg Community Corrections gave me a final written warning. But I was telling her, Mama, I'm doing that to sustain myself. She said, now, when it comes to our policies, there's nothing like sustaining. I'm doing my job. Then I have to shift from what I'm doing. Let me do something else. I'm being called to places to motivate women. I'm being called in places to develop communities because people, they know the power of this. This power of this was created inside prison. I went there, I did not even know how to stand before people, but these people that I see before my eyes, you are very few. I normally stand before more than 100 or 200 people. So that is why I'm proudly stand before you because I know what I'm doing. Thank you so much. But now, if you really want to reach out to me, you can go to Community Corrections. I do motivational talks, GBV talks to women and men, and I do children talk as well. And I'm also doing a program director, Madam Program Director. I was sitting here, actually, I thought maybe you're going to call me. I thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your experience. Can I please have the next speaker to approach the podium? And that will be Mr. Escutia. And immediately after Mr. Escutia, can we also please have Mr. A. Fortain to also just approach the podium, please?
Mr. Groenewald, I feel you. Your Queen, I feel you. I feel each one in this room. We focus today a lot of things we are not doing right, things that we must approve, that we forget to celebrate the times that we did something right. When I entered prison 28 years ago, I was a very young, troubled man. My first 4 years, I was in 11 prisons. I ended up here. And my section head, I hope he's here, is Pexa Sibia. And he decided that he will invest in my life. He motivated me to complete my matric. Under his guidance, he always told me, I like reading, he told me, I will help you to get books, but you are not allowed to smuggle drugs. I completed my matric. I started doing programs. And the time I have done my matric, you must remember that I had nothing to live with. I had a 40-year sentence. Everyone thought I'm busy with a tronkskelm, but I am investing in myself. He told me two things that's very important. First of all, change start here. Secondly, it's not what happens to you, it's what you went through that is counting. Prison is near the end of my life. And just to emphasize on it, I have done anger management 3 times. There's nothing wrong with the program. The first 2 times, I thought prison must do something for me because I need this certificate for parole board. The 3rd time, I realized that if I don't deal with my anger, I will end up staying in prison. 2015, I left this gate. I made a promise that I will be the difference that South Africa needs. I will show everyone that a life offender can start life over and be a success. Today, I'm a successful author with 6 books. I'm nominated on the shortlist, Best TV Series Written, Best Radio Drama Written, and I regularly speak at churches, schools, motivating people. I can tell you that I'm not my past. I'm Stefan Skutsie. I'm a child of God, and I'm proud to be an ex-life offender. Thank you.
I hope that through collective effort, we create a safer environment and prevent harm to the individuals and the community at large. I'm committed to advocate for the rights and resources that victims of crime need to heal and rebuild their lives through this process. I stand before you today with gratitude, humility, and awareness of the responsibility I carry. I know that for some, the very word parolee brings discomfort, even fear. I cannot ignore that because I once lived on the other side of the law, and my choices contributed to that fear. But today, I want to speak not only as someone who has served time, but as someone who has walked the road of change, who has faced the daily challenges of parole, who believes deeply in the possibility of a parole system that promotes public safety and human dignity. Parole is not freedom without conditions. It's a reward, or rather not a reward, but it's a test of character, of discipline, of commitment to a new life. It is waking up every morning with the knowledge that one mistake could send you back behind bars. It is living under supervision, reporting regularly, and providing through action, not words, that you are determined to change. But make no mistake, the challenges are great. Many parolees step out of prison with nothing but a record that brands them. Employers hesitate to hire us. Families we want hurt may not be ready to forgive. Housing is uncertain. Addiction, trauma, mental health struggles are common companions. The stigma is heavy. Often we are judged not by who we are working to become, but by what we once did. And without support, that weight can crush a person back into your old cycle. I understand the fear of the public, the worry. What if the person reoffends? What if another crime is committed? These are valid concerns. Safety must always come first. But there is the truth. Harshness alone does not guarantee safety. If parole is only about surveillance and punishment, it may deter for a while, but it does not heal. What truly keeps communities safe is transformation. When parolees are guided, supported, and held accountable, they are less likely to reoffend. Imagine a parole system that sees supervision and support as partners. One that requires accountability but also offers tools, counseling, job training, mentorship, community service, and a pathway to education. When parole officers are not only enforcers but mentors. When programs help parolees find work, manage addiction, and rebuild family ties, society wins. The parolee regains dignity and the public gains safety. A humane system is not a soft system. It's a strong system. Because it builds people up instead of leaving them to fall again. I speak these words not as theory, but as lived truth. There was a time when anger and survival defined me. Prison hardened me, but it was parole that tested me. On parole, I faced temptations, rejection, and mistrust. And still, that is firm but fair. That is firm but fair. Watchful but compassionate. Rooted not just in rules, but in the belief that people can change. Because a man or woman that changes, families are restored, communities grow stronger, and future victims are spared. I close with this thought. Parole is not the end of a punishment. It's the beginning. Parole is not the end of a punishment. It's the beginning of restoration. And restoration, when done right, is the truest form of public safety. I thank you for your time, your service, and your willingness to hear my voice today. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fortain, and I'm going to quote you. A humane system is not a soft system, it's a strong system. Thank you very much. Colleagues, our three colleagues who just spoke now, Ms. Jackson, Mr. Kutia, and Mr. Fortain, thank you very much for giving us the encouragement that it is not all doom and gloom, and that the system works if you work it. Thank you very much, colleagues. Can we please give them another round of applause? All right, colleagues, I have reached the conclusion of my program directing. I would like to thank all of you for being so cooperative today. We were running behind, a little bit with time, but because of your cooperation, we were able to catch up. To all the speakers, also thank you so much for your cooperation. And I once again just want to thank the Minister, and I thank you, Deputy Minister, for your assistance as well during the program, and also just to thank the National Commissioner, Mr. Tubakale, for this opportunity and for including us as the Criminological Society Criminological Society to come and be part of this very important event. Colleagues, I am going to be handing over to Deputy Minister because there is something that she needs to do before the conclusion of this program. Thank you, colleagues, once again.
Thank you very much, Prof. We really appreciate the work that you have done. It was splendid. We must indicate that you've just navigated. I was just co-cheering from behind, but thank you very much. We are having token of appreciation as a department. Dr. Msoma, are we ready? Yes, we are. May we request our minister to come and give our guests. National Commissioner, you can help the minister there. Minister, you can stand there, so. No, he will give you the hand over those things. The bags, we'll be giving it to, you can come this side so that we don't disturb the bioscope. The bioscope must be nicely captured. This will go down in his review. So we'll start with Mr. Lombard. Can you give them a round of applause as he comes? Thank you very much for coming and sharing the deficiencies within our current parole system and all the input. And you pose for a photo. Please pose for the photo. Moniso hasta gewees asseblief. Daar's 'n camera. Daar's hy. En daai glimlag is mense asseblief. Dankie. And then we call upon Advocate Pashwa. Is he still here? Advocate? He went outside. Is the naughty ones that take breaks, unauthorized breaks. Thank you very much. We shall return to him. And may we call Professor Rustenberg. Thank you very much for also presenting the Zeta Scale Risk Assessment tool. How? A round of applause. Why are you so stingy with those hands? And that pose and those smiles, we need them in our pictures. You follow us on our Facebook page, on our Twitter and TikTok as DCS, as a belief. Bye, dankie. Yeah. And we call upon on Professor Schoeman. Thank you very much. As she approaches, Professor Spanyoni, be ready. Another round of applause. We're almost there. And then we'll be calling upon on Professor Spanyoni, the tall guy, and the dark and the handsome one. Thank you very much, Prof, for sharing with us those data strategy and making sure that you also raise those matters. It's only you that shake me. Yo, others, I boo. Then we call upon on Dr. Murola. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes, as he deals with the frameworks and the guideline in terms of the response rate on reoffending. Thank you very much. And can we, okay. We call on Dr. Lotta. Mina vele bengizothi Lotter. Lotta. Thank you very much. The second time he was responding, he was better with the mic, eh? It's some of the Luther. I was saying I was going to call you Lotter. Luther. And now I know. That is why I said, hey, I was lucky it was you. Thank you very much for sharing those strategies with us. Thank you. And can we also call on Ms. Marangwe, DCS, DDG? DCS, DSD, Department of Social Development? Are they gone? Huh? Have I missed something? Entered Khoshi Mampures, she exited he. On behalf. Thank you very much. On her behalf, we receive. Thank you. Also, Ms. Hwadi, thank you very much for that voice. And I know that she has been given a debriefing session. I'm not sure whether they are done. If not done, we'll give her the package. May we call also Ms. Kun? Mrs. Kun. Oh, there she is. Let's give her a round of applause. Let's give her that moment first alone with the minister. Thank you very much. Ms. Kun, thank you very much. We'll finish our business at the commissions of nothing. Nothing is happening. Thank you. Is it frozen? The old cameras. Singabako, you are in trouble with these cameras. It froze. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. And also, may we call the Office of Minister Social Development to receive the gift on her behalf. I don't know, DSD, you never run away, man. I was an MEC of Social Development and we never did that, man. I sesizaknika. Mara, even the office is gone. Thank you, but we know why. There's other activities that they must embark on. And thank you. Send the message to the minister, we really appreciate. Thank you very much. And may we call on upon Deputy Minister Muhai. Ntate Muhai. And all these gifts are done by our inmates within the correctional facilities. Maybe we should show off what are the goodies inside the bags so that the judges can see what we do. Let's give the DM a round of applause. Thank you. May we call Professor Tobane as our program director. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You've done well. Thank you very much. May I also call the Portfolio Chairperson of Correctional Services, Honorable Chair. May you please come forth. You led a delegation in full capacity. And you remain on track in holding us accountable, Slalo. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. For today's program, we have finished, but I want to show off. Where is that thing? Where is the, can I have the ball, the other bag? Yeah, we'll take one, because we want to showcase the good work. And see, help me. It's a pen holder. The pen holder is with the South African flag. It means we must remain patriotic to our country. Always on your desk, remember the Republic. Remember you are serving the Republic. Remember that we must serve this country with honesty, integrity. Siyakhipha mosithina la. This is a candle holder. Thina kudala besithi candlesticks. Manje they just modernized it. As you pray, as you do other things, because we need to pray for our country, need to pray for every situation, you lit a white candle or your red candle or your yellow towards your gender-based violence cases, praying for our country and sanity. Please put up that candle and think about us as DCS. This is done by our inmates, going through the process of healing, coming back, being rehabbed, reintegrated, making sure that these stalls, we support them and we make sure that their talent is nurtured. They are skilled. They can open up businesses there. Thank you very much. Our work is done. We are 15 minutes earlier, but I will take you through tomorrow morning. Please be here at 9 o'clock. Not that you are arriving, we are starting. 9 o'clock, we recap. As we recap, we break away to commissions. There's 4 commissions. And then resource person and facilitators be timeously, so that after the recap, you'll go straight to commissions. We shall be provided by administration, which area is commission 1, 2, 3, 4. From there, we'll go to commissions up to lunchtime. Lunchtime, we come back to plenary. we report on commissions. Once done on commission, we come back here, then the National Commissioner will be giving a summary of the key outcomes and the way forward, and our Minister will be closing the summit. That is in terms of the procedure. Thank you very much. May you travel safe, and God bless you as you travel back home. Be here, 9 o'clock we start, please. Thank you very much. God bless you.